Welcome to the Sports Show. We got a fearsome fivesome tonight, and they're chomping at the bit. Mike Max, Patrick Royce, Lavelle E. Neal, Lou Nanny, and Sid Hartman. Sydney, 1 year ago today, we sat in here with heavy hearts. Dark Star had passed away, and it was a shock. What do you remember about that week?
Well, it was a shock. I mean, nobody believed it. He's a young man yet. He didn't have any heart problems that I knew about. And I guess Bob Hagan and some guys found him dead. It was a sad day.
Patrick could say it was a big blow.
Yes, it was, and it's been a big blow for me because if I want to watch a prize fight now, I have to pay for it myself. Dark used to be able to, Dark could spend the 60 bucks, and I'd buy the food, and it worked out well, and he had the 80-inch TV. I think the 80-inch TV is what killed him.
Yeah, but hold it.
Because once he got the 80-inch TV, he never got off the couch.
Yeah, but if you were buying food for you and Dark, I think it's more than 60 bucks. I think I would rather buy the film.
That's right.
Well, what do you remember about him in the press box? He's a big Twins guy.
Oh, Canterbury Park, man. Going there on Saturday for race day.
Did you go there?
I used to hang out with him in the press box in Canterbury every now and then. It was a sight to behold. And the food he eat during the course of the day, it'd be pretty remarkable. He'd have 4 empty plates around him by 5 o'clock.
Said he was one of the characters of all time, wasn't he?
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's too bad somebody didn't write a book. They wouldn't believe it.
You loved him like a brother, Sid, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They wouldn't believe it because
you're a partner.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote a book with Sid because I knew I could get the truth. I never wrote one with Dark because I was afraid he might massage the truth a little bit.
Massage just a little.
Yeah, just a little bit. And somebody once said to me, "How could you tell when he didn't? How could you be friends with him? Didn't you? What if? How'd you know if he was lying to you or not?" I said, "What difference did it make? They're a great story."
That's kind of where it was with Dark, wasn't it? You
Don't
just
let facts get in the way.
Not sure if that's true or not, but it sure makes for a good story.
Yes.
Well, Danny Grant used to say that in hockey when he'd tell a story and some of us thought, Danny, that's not true. Well, it's mostly true. Well, how can you talk like that? He says, if you're going to tell a story, you got to make it worthwhile. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, and that's the way Dark was.
Yes.
Happy birthday to Louis.
Yeah.
Hey,
happy birthday, sir.
41.
41, going strong, man.
Now, Sid,
what is the deal, though, Louis? I mean, you could have retired a long time ago. You just keep working. How come?
Well, I think because when I couldn't play hockey anymore, I really enjoyed the competition.
Yep.
And I can't play, and I'm too old to play. And so I went into sales. Sales is like my game. It's like you win or lose, and it really vitalizes you. I just enjoy the competition.
As I asked him last year on the radio, Louis, how do you know the difference when you're working and when you're on vacation?
Yeah. Because you were on the go a lot at places that are pretty nice resorts.
Well, you know, when you do work, you do have some choices.
Well, you spent a lot of time in that Florida place.
Right.
Enjoy yourself.
Weren't you just in Africa?
Mason.
Yeah, he was just in South Africa.
What business did you have in Africa?
Monkey business. I was going to look at monkeys over there. Lions, tigers, monkeys, the whole deal.
That's the trip you got to get him on.
I don't know if he would like that much. You know, the lions and the leopards, they get pretty close to you. I don't think you'd like that so much.
I'm not interested. I'll tell you what. A friend of mine, Dick Lurie, made several of those deals, and he had a lion and a couple other animals, and some janitor came in there one night and he fainted.
You mean he had mounted?
Yeah, mounted.
Yes, right.
Yes,
He couldn't find the guy, and he found the guy.
Passed out.
Back in the day, you had Bobby Knight in town. Knight loved to go overseas, and you were telling some of the stories about he and Ted Williams go, fishing in Russia, was it?
Fishing. They went. What was he doing in town?
Well, I just said, this brings up a story because Bobby Knight was in town with you this weekend, and Bobby Knight used to go overseas.
Knight was a big fan of Williams.
Yep.
And Knight wanted to meet Williams. And to make a long story short, Williams, I called his woman, and he was at the Montgomery Ward, was in business, and he was on their board. And I called, see if any way they could meet him. Somehow I got in touch with him. And I said, okay, this night drives me crazy. I'll get you on the 3 line and see if you guys can get together. So Williams, typical vulgar language.
I'm sure you were offended, yeah.
Son, if you can tell me what bait you use for this fish, I'll continue the talk. Otherwise, get ready for the hang-up. And they got to be great friends. And then, when they got to be great friends, Halberstam,
David Halberstam.
he wanted to do a story on Williams.
Summer of '49. He wrote a book, The Summer of '49, and he needed Williams.
And he couldn't get Williams, so Knight called me. By that time, he knew Williams. And he called me. He says, he's turned him down. I called him. He says, why do you want me to do that? He said, I turned all those Boston guys down. I says, do me a favor. This guy's first class. He did it.
Yes, and I've seen the inscription in Sid's book from Halberstam.
Yep, and it's a pretty good book.
Yes.
I want to know who paid for the tickets. Did you make Bobby Knight buy the Twins tickets Saturday?
Champions Club tickets?
I know where you got the tickets.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
do too. Might be one of our sponsors here tonight.
Yes.
Marty
Take a break,
Davis.
come back, stay with us.
Really?
There it is, locally owned, nationally known. Stop by J.D. Hoyt's anytime on your way to a Twins game. It's a nice walk, particularly in the summertime or anytime you're downtown. Say hi to Pat and the gang.
Explain this baseball to me.
Oh.
The Yankees, the Mets beat the Yankees 4 straight and lose 3 straight to the Marlins. The Angels lose 3 straight in Anaheim to Houston. They got about 6 guys making more money than the whole Houston roster. And the Twins, lose 11 out of 12, and now they've won 6 out of 7.
7 out of 9.
7 out of 9.
Yeah, after nearly getting no hit in Detroit.
Hang on a second. Sydney, what do you think?
They're 8-2, aren't they?
Yeah, so what do you think of the Twins and this crazy baseball?
Well, they actually didn't beat anybody. That's one thing. I mean, they're 2 bad clubs, but they got the pitching, they got some hittings, and they look pretty good today. Today's probably as good a performance they had all year. Got 13 hits, and without Morneau. And if you looked at those names on the lineup, I think if you asked waivers on half of them, nobody claimed them.
Although I'd say the same about Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle had a couple guys playing today I never heard of.
No offense.
Who's the catcher? Sucre.
Sucre and Trueful. Who's that guy?
I don't know.
Oh, you know what? The Twins benefit. The schedules have been kind to the Twins over the last week. Milwaukee's terrible. For whatever reason, they're not pitching well. They're not playing smart, fundamental baseball. And now they played the Seattle Mariners have terrible offense. The only time they can win is 2 days out of 5 when Felix Hernandez and Hisashi Iwakuma are pitching. All right, but the other games, the Twins had their way with them. So it's just been a benefit of the schedule. Now they go into a Kansas City Royals team that is reeling.
What is going on? Louis, did you ever do that? They bring back George Brett as their hitting instructor to try to get some goodwill, I guess. Not that Brett doesn't know the game.
They want to bring back God. He wouldn't come. So
Next on the list.
Next on the list, you got Brett.
Louis hired himself with 2 games to go to the season.
That's
to try
right.
to make the playoffs.
Yes.
He knows desperation.
George Brett.
Make the playoffs.
Cannot make the playoffs.
No, in the playoffs. I didn't coach right before the playoffs.
I thought you coached 2 games.
No. Murray Oliver was coaching at the time. We were going to play Toronto. And we had lost 5 straight to Toronto. And Murray suggested to me, he said, Louis, I think you should come on the bench. I don't know if we're getting through to these guys, and I think you should coach against them. And that's what I did.
Did you win the series?
Yeah, we did.
Did you?
Yeah.
I covered George Brett. I'm going to tell you right now, this is a big step for him. George kind of likes his time so he can be impromptu here. Now he's got to be on a set schedule.
Somebody told me you don't see George at the office every day. He's the vice president.
No, boxes full of golf balls, man. I remember when he was the executive for the Royals, when I covered him, he would look in his office, boxes of golf balls.
Kind of a funny move. He was the executive vice president, and all of a sudden they sent him to the field. I don't know about that whole thing.
Well, there's a rumor Fergosi might be their new manager. I love that. He's 71
Fergosi is still scouting, isn't he?
Yeah.
71 years old, and he hasn't managed in 13 years, but he's one of the great characters in baseball, so he'd be fun.
Tell you a story about Fergosi. Fergosi's playing shortstop for Rigney out in Los Angeles. He's got a bad toe. So Rigney calls me. He says, there's no good doctors out here. They can't find what's wrong with his toe. I'm going to lose this kid. Send him up here. Take him to Mayo Clinic.
Yep.
He took care of him, and he's 100% assistant. And he's a long-time friend. When he was in baseball,
Did you get him done with a tow truck?
anything you need.
Louis, how much does it matter your age when you're a coach?
Well, I think there's been very few that have been successful when they get old. but you had Scotty Bowman, who was older when he coached.
Jock?
And, well, Jock wasn't that old. Jock was
Seemed like
early
he
in
was
the
in his
60s. No,
60s.
yeah. And, you know, Pat Quinn was getting late 60s, but usually, and especially today, in the old days, there were a lot of older coaches. Dick Irvin, Toe Blake, and fellas like that, Jack Adams. But now, in this day and age, it seems most of your coaches, you know, once they get around 60, they're not around anymore.
Hey, Louie, the goal the Blackhawks scored that was nullified. Have you ever seen one like that when the play's down at the other end of the
No, not in
ice?
a game like that. And I have to tell you, it's a good thing Chicago came back to win, because that referee would have had a lot of problems getting out of that building, I think. That, you know, it was just a bad call. He made a bad call. He's a very good referee. He probably cost himself some games in the final
I see
series.
he was working one of them.
Yeah, now he'll still work. You know, he was the referee-in-chief 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he didn't like just doing the off-ice stuff, so he quit and came back to referee. But it was a bad call, and he made it.
Bad referee? Was he refereeing games like that then?
Well, no, he's not a
good
bad. He's a
referee.
good referee, but that was a bad call he made.
But your Blackhawks rally back from down 3-1, so maybe they're going to win the cup now.
Well, they one game won against the Kings, and game 2 is going on tonight. So they look strong now. But Jonathan Quick's a doggone good goalie, man, and they're going to have to find ways to break him down over a 7-game series.
I think having that Bolin back makes the Blackhawks better, don't you?
Yeah.
He's got
Oh,
a
yeah.
little toughness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you think has the best and the worst referees of all the leagues? Football, basketball, hockey, baseball?
At Hightower.
I don't know. I think pro football has.
Oh,
The best or the worst?
I think they have the least influence on a game of any of them.
Who do you think?
Well, the home plate umpire,
Home
obviously.
plate umpire, but I think basketball. Basketball, they have more impact on a game.
You're
than
probably
don't
right
you
about
think,
that.
Louis?
Yeah, I think that, you know, referees, we used to say they got marbles in their pockets. So by the end of the game, there should be penalties, should be 5-4, 5-3, 4-4.
Yeah,
So
they just feel how many marbles they got. Take a break, come back, stay with us. Yeah, stop on by Audi Minneapolis right there off of General Mills Boulevard. Get behind one of those Q7s, those A6s, and I'm telling you, it is a ride you will not forget. Truth in engineering, you bet. Welcome back to the sports show. LeBron James, you thought was going to cakewalk to this NBA title. Not so.
I can't figure that out. It shows you teamwork is pretty important. And that coach for Indianapolis, I never heard of him in my life, but he's done a heck of a job with them. And they ain't going to win the 7th game. Don't you have to worry about that. But they certainly have done a fantastic job.
The Heat has always had trouble with physical teams. That's been one of their problems this year. The Bulls stopped their winning streak by playing them physical, and the Indiana Pacers are equipped to be physical with the Heat and give them problems. Dwayne Wade looks like a shell of his former self. I think the Pacers have a heck of a shot to move on. Roy Hibbert has to shut his mouth and just focus on blocking shots and rebounding instead of dropping homophobic slurs on people.
You got fined $75,000 today. A little. Use the H word.
Use the H word.
That's
in
when
a
you-
short form.
Yes.
I got a bigger question, Louis. You got Rick Adelman and Flip Saunders. Now, they've coached against each other. They've never lived together. Now they're going to live together. How do you think this is going to work? Because obviously they have to come to a conclusion on personnel and philosophies. It's a little more difficult than just saying, well, Rick's a great coach and I know how to get players.
Well, it's going to work if Flip realizes now that he's in a different type of position. And Flip might have some ideas what's going on in the game or after a game, and he might want to discuss it. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to realize that it's the coach's job to do what he wants. It's just, I used to go down in the coach's office after. I'll never forget. One time I went down there and I'm talking to Glenn Sonmore was their head coach, Murray Oliver and Parisi, and I'm questioning about things. And I'm questioning him. Then it's over. I said, okay, let's go get a beer. And they said, is that it? I said, yeah. I said, you guys are the coach. If you're that convinced what you're doing, you're right, then you got to do what you're doing.
Listen,
And
Same
that's-
question.
many games you got beat and you're in the press box and you can't wait to go down and see that coach.
Yeah, that's what I just finished saying.
Because I said, where are you going in a hurry?
I went down winning, losing, anytime. And you're right. And I'd go after every game because you'd want to discuss what's going on. But he's the coach, and then you let him coach. They got to, as long as it,
You might have an idea he should play another goaltender.
But if he doesn't want to play him, that's his choice. You're right. That's what I just finished saying. I question him. What do you think about playing this guy? No, I don't want to play him. Then he's got to go who he wants
Don't
to.
worry about Flip. Flip's smart enough to handle this thing. Flip's pretty cute. Flip knows how to take care of his own situation very, very well.
I heard him on an interview the other day, a national interview, and the guy said, I'm going to call you Mr. President. He said, you can call me Mr. President or partial or minority owner.
Either one's fine with me, huh? Lavelle, what's the difference between Gardy and Billy Smith and Gardy and Terry Ryan?
Well, I think Gardy and Terry Ryan always had a great relationship, and Gardy had a lot of respect for Terry because Terry is a scout at heart.
Baseball guy.
Yeah, he can tell. He can look at a player and tell that he can play. Bill Smith was an administrator, and he still is an administrator. And I don't think Gardy could relate to Bill as well as he relates to Terry Ryan.
But they had some problems at the end of this year about who was going to be coaches and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in general.
Well, Terry said things had to change after so many years in the last couple of seasons. I think Gardy was reluctant, but he knew he had to.
Yeah, Sid, don't you think that would have been tougher for Gardy if Bill Smith had been the guy telling him he had to change the coaching staff?
Ooh.
Absolutely, and they wanted Paul Molitor in the worst way in Steinbach's position, and finally they worked it out.
What did you do with the Lakers if the coach wanted a certain assistant coach that you didn't want?
Coach had nothing to say about that Lakers thing.
Well, they did.
We got
them the best players in the world, and we didn't.
Plus, Maxie, you didn't exactly have 5 assistants back then.
Max was never here.
Yeah, but did Cuddle even have an assistant coach? Did you have an assistant coach?
Dave McMillan.
Dave McMillan. Okay, the ex-Gopher coach who was in his in his 60s.
Nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't really have the staffs.
Right.
How many, when you were running the North Star, did you have one assistant?
We had one at the beginning, then we went to 2.
Yeah, what do we got now, 4 or 5?
Oh. That you can see.
Take a break, come back, stay with us, the sports show. There it is. Big thank you to the sponsors, Faegre, Baker, Daniels, and many, many more. And don't forget to stop by Bar Abilene, say hi to Wayne Kostrowski and the whole crew. Taste the NFL and so much more. Sydney, the upcoming drafts for the NHL and Major League Baseball are kind of similar because there are a lot of people that we haven't heard of that are going to go, down the road. We'll find out more about them. But you think this is the most important days for these organizations?
Well, the baseball draft's like the hockey draft. I have fought with commissioners for years. Do something to publicize these guys are going to be drafted.
It's hard to do, though, Louis. I don't know what you do if the guys...
So they're known like football and basketball. I mean, they should do something, send out releases or do something.
The hockey has the list of the way they rate them.
The hockey does it. In Canada, you get a lot more coverage of the prospective draft choices than you do here. There just isn't as much interest here. Yeah. And on top of that, you have to remember that you never know when you're picking. The Wild doesn't have a first-round pick this year, so they traded. So what are you going to... You got to say 100 players to figure out who they might get in the first 2 rounds.
You can't say, boy, we really like this kid. Yeah. You could be like Rick Spielman and have a nice press conference where you lie like, but it's, I don't know. It's
Lavelle, the Twins have not drafted real well over the years. What do you think this year? They're going to go pitching? No,
I think they're going to go with the best player available. The top 3 players is Jonathan Gray from Oklahoma, the Chris Bryant kid from University of San Diego, who's a third baseman, and Mark Capel from Stanford. Of course, the Twins have the 4th pick. Yeah. So they got a group of 4 kids they're looking at. A pitcher from Houston named Cole Stewart, Colin Moran, third baseman from North Carolina, and a couple other pitchers. If one of those guys are available at 4, he'll probably go after him. But
Boris has how many of the top 3?
Boris has Appel
and Bryant, right?
And Bryant and Minea, the left-hander that the Twins like before he got injured. Yeah.
Would you ever not draft somebody if you didn't like their agent, Louis?
No. You'd hope that you could put up with the agent or you get the agent fired.
I know a little bit about the NHL draft this year because the top prospect is the son of former Popeye Jones, Seth Jones.
The best story about an agent is Lombardi. He had a Pro Bowl center.
Jim Ringo.
This guy came in,
Jim Ringo.
Yeah. Guy came in and brought his agent with him. He says, He says, I don't have time to complete this thing now, but come back this afternoon. Came back this afternoon as I remember the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, well, agents are, they don't have quite that power anymore.
Things have changed a little bit since those days.
That's right.
of
The agent's
Lombardi.
got a lot of power.
Can you imagine if Sid was dealing with agents every day at the Lakers?
My favorite agent
that would be
ever
fun.
was, my favorite agent was Howard Slusher because Lynn called him Agent Orange all the time.
See you back here next week, everybody.